While most of the world is kind of grappling with all this uncertainty, there's a powerful, maybe even quiet revolution reaching a tipping point over in the East. Today, we're diving deep into a source that makes a bold argument that we are watching a technological and economic superpower emerge that is literally rewriting the rules for the 21st century. And that one line, well, it pretty much sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about. It's a huge claim, right? It's framing China not just as another player in the global economy, but as its core support system. So we're going to break down the data and the strategy behind that idea. Just look at this headline for a moment from Goldman Sachs. This is the story behind today's video. China's economy is forecasted to grow faster than expected in 2026. With that said, let's go straight to the intro. So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll look at the raw economic power that makes China this quote-unquote anchor. Then, we'll get into how it's rewriting the rule book on development. After that, we'll zoom out to its global reach, its big bet on its own people, and finally, how the rest of the world is reacting. Alright, so to really get a handle on this anchor idea, we have to see how China kicked off 2026. A lot of analysts were expecting a slowdown, but the first numbers that came in, well, they didn't just beat expectations, they absolutely shattered them. So check this out. What you're seeing here is this really interesting two-sided story of China's economic strength. On the one hand, you have industrial output just surging by 6.3%. I mean, the engine of production is firing on all cylinders. And on the other hand, retail sales grew by 2.8%, which proves that the world's second largest consumer market is alive and well. And this chart, wow, this really brings that whole argument home. According to the source, China is responsible for about 30% of all global economic growth. But here's the kicker. That's reportedly more than all the G7 nations combined. This one chart just lays it all out there, plain as day. But here's the thing. These numbers aren't just about cranking out more stuff. The source argues they point to a really fundamental strategic pivot, a move away from just sheer quantity and toward a completely re-engineered high-quality economy. Okay, this next term is super important. You gotta get this one. New quality productive forces. This isn't just some catchy slogan, it's the actual blueprint for their future. Think of it as a three-pronged attack. Dominate high-tech industries, lead the green energy revolution, and weave digital tech, especially AI, into the very fabric of the economy. And boom, here's the proof in the pudding. High-tech manufacturing grew by a staggering 13.1% right at the start of the year. This is not some slow, gradual change. It is an absolute explosion into advanced areas like aerospace, biotech, and next-gen IT. Now, get a load of this number. A 3.1% jump in the production of industrial robots. This signals a massive, massive wave of automation. They're literally building the robots that are then building the future, creating this incredibly efficient and modern industrial base. And you can't talk about the future without talking about AI, right? The source says that China now holds around 60% of all global AI patents. But it's not just about research papers, it's about putting it to work. They have a national strategy called AI Plus that aims to embed artificial intelligence in 90% of the manufacturing sector. I mean, we're talking about creating a smart economy on a scale the world has literally never seen before. Okay, so we've seen the engine running inside the country. Now let's zoom out and see how all that power is being projected across the globe. We're going to explore how China is shifting from just being the world's factory to becoming its essential marketplace. The headline numbers here are just mind-boggling. Total trade hit 7.73 trillion yuan. That's over $1 trillion right at the start of 2026. That's an 18.3% jump from the year before. And according to the source, this is the first time in 3 years that trade growth is back in the double digits, which signals a really powerful comeback. So what's behind this massive export boom? Well, the source points to something it calls the new trio: electric vehicles, lithium-ion batteries, and solar products. Look, these are not the cheap, low-cost goods of the past. These are the high-tech, green energy building blocks of the future. The source even projects that these three sectors alone could make up 20% of China's entire GDP in 2026. Now, take a look at this table because it really pulls back the curtain on the strategy here. Just look at that growth. Trade with ASEAN nations up over 20%. Trade with countries in the Belt and Road Initiative also up 20%, hitting over 4 trillion yuan. This is no accident. It's a very deliberate plan to diversify, to create this global web of trade that makes the economy way less dependent on any single market. And this one fact just ties everything together. So how can they do all of this? How can they export such an insane range of advanced products? Because according to this source, China is the only country in the world that has every single one of the 41 industrial categories that the UN recognizes. This complete industrial ecosystem means it can build pretty much anything the world needs, and do it efficiently and at a massive scale. But look, all this industrial power, that's only half the equation. The source argues China's long-term play pivots away from just factories and exports and towards building a sustainable, consumer-driven economy by investing in its own people. So what does that actually mean? Well, this slide breaks down their whole strategy from the 15th five-year plan. Step 1 is a huge shift, moving focus from just physical stuff like roads and bridges to human capital. The whole point is to boost the purchasing power of regular citizens by making education, healthcare, and social security stronger. And that, in turn, unleashes the crazy potential of domestic consumption to be the main engine for all future growth. And just to give you a sense of the sheer scale we're talking about here, this isn't one single market. Beijing and Shanghai now have individual economies that are bigger than 5 trillion yuan. That's larger than many countries. And these integrated mega-regions, like the Greater Bay Area, are basically a $2 trillion economic engine all by themselves. So you've got this incredible internal strength, these huge tech leaps, and this massive global reach, which leads us to the big finale. How is the rest of the world, especially the big money investors, reacting to all this? Well, the numbers kind of speak for themselves here. According to this source, net foreign direct investment inflows quadrupled in 2025, surging to over $76 billion. I mean, that's not just a small increase, it's a massive vote of confidence from global capital. It suggests that the smart money sees long-term opportunity and stability here. And we're not just talking about faceless money flowing in. We're talking about the biggest names in the game: JP Morgan, BlackRock, Tesla. The source points out that they are actively deepening their roots, which seems to indicate a strategic belief that if you want to be a global leader, you have to have a serious presence in China. Now, the source is presenting this as a clear trend, even while the wider conversation definitely includes concerns from some foreign companies about things like market access and geopolitical risk. The argument here, though, is that these giants are playing the long game. And that brings us right to the source's final, very powerful takeaway. After laying out all the data on industry, on tech, on trade, on its people, it lands on this one impactful statement. The argument is crystal clear. China's story is one of incredible resilience and a laser-focused vision that is being built brick by brick right now. So I want to leave you with this question. Out of all these incredible forces, the technology, the global trade, or the investment in its people, which one do you think is going to be the most decisive factor in shaping the next decade? Let us know what you think down in the comments. And hey, if you found this deep dive useful, do us a favor and like and subscribe to stay ahead of the curve on the global shifts that are defining our world. Thanks for joining The Explainer.